Hi everyone, my name is Laura Jones. Because of my own interest in the Victorian era, I make Victorian clothing. I've often wondered what it took to get that delicate beauty of an era a long time ago. After much research, I found some very disturbing things. Artist and researcher Alexis Carl sets the stage in her lecture, Dangerous Beauty in New York City. Imagine a woman getting ready to go out. She's in front of her mirror. She has a splash of mercury for her eyelashes, and a few drops of deadly nightshade in her eyes, a dash of ammonia for her face. In the Victorian era, women had few options and only two expectations: to get married and to be beautiful. So let's start with their beauty regime. In the Victorian era, the tuberculosis look was the look that was in at the time. Women were considered most beautiful when they were frail looking, and when they had watery eyes, pale skin, and even some women drew tiny little blue lines on their skin so it looked like they had blue blood. And also their small waist. And of course they had to use a corset to do that, and they looked very frail, and they looked like they could faint at any moment, but of course that was because of their fashion choices. Let's start with their makeup. One of their makeup that they used was a face paint, but it had lead enamel in it. Now the thing with the lead enamel is that the more that you used it, the more it corroded your skin, so you had to use more and more of it. And also, if you ever wondered why the women in the Victorian era, they looked like they had a Mona Lisa smile or they didn't do much expression of their face, it's because if they were too expressive, their faces would crack like a China doll. So you didn't want to do that. They used ammonia, and it was supposed to brighten your skin, but it also corroded your skin. And in the Harper's Bazaar, there was a beauty column called the Ugly Girl Papers. And the Ugly Girl Papers, they had a lot of contradicting advice. And one of the advice was about ammonia is that for your hair it makes it bright and shiny and beautiful. But in the same column at a different time, it also says it's a great hair remover. So what's a girl supposed to do? They also used belladonna, it's also known as deadly nightshade, to dilate their eyes and make them watery because they were more beautiful when they had big watery eyes. But it also caused blindness. And they used, for those ladies that had light eyebrows or very sparse eyelashes, they also used mercury. But mercury also can cause blindness. The other thing is to get that pale skin look, because you weren't supposed to look like you ever were working or be outside in the sun, so they used arsenic cream for their skin to lighten it up. But if you were one of the richer ladies that you didn't want to use the vulgar face paint, you would go to the store and get arsenic wafers, so you could nibble on them and make your skin translucent. In fact, you could even order them through the Sears and Roebuck catalog. Dangers in the Victorian era didn't have just to do with their makeup, but also with their fashion choices and home decorating choices. Arsenic green was a favorite color in the Victorian age and in the 1700s. Arsenic green, or Paris green, or even as it's known right now, it's called acid green. It's a really bright, vibrant green. It was very, very popular, and people made gowns out of it, and they made jackets and stockings and paper flowers for headbands. Now, being that it's made out of arsenic is bad enough, and that you're wearing them. It's very dangerous to be wearing these things. But the other thing is that the people in the factories, it's mostly little girls and children that were working in factories to make the clothing, the paper, and that kind of thing. There was no safeties involved in factories at the time. So there was lots of tumors and all sorts of poisoning and death and cancer from that time. This arsenic green is made out of arsenic and copper sulfide. So let me see, some lesser known dangers also have to do with the paint in people's houses and wallpaper. The arsenic green was very popular, so they used it for flocked wallpaper like this because it was really beautiful, it was bright, it was vibrant. But the thing is, the flocking would flake off after a while, and it would go throughout the whole house and poison everyone. And also, the green paint was beautiful, and it also had properties for keeping away mice and killing mice and killing bugs and stuff like that. But they didn't even think about it killing people that were in the house at the same time. And the painters that painted the houses, they actually were getting sick from the arsenic, but not just from painting the houses, but from licking the paintbrush, so they could get a nice straight fine line on things. And also, men weren't they were immune to it either, besides the bottle green jackets. They had something called a father killer. A father killer was a very high-end tight collar, and it could cause asphyxia or a brain embolism because it was so tight. And these were reported in newspapers all the time, but because people loved the fashion, they just went ahead and did it anyway, no matter what the dangers were. After hearing about all these dangers, I bet you're feeling that you're very excited to be living in the modern age. But in conclusion, are we any better off? We have Botox, we have plastic surgery, fad diets and pills. And our ancestors knew the dangers of the arsenic, but they felt that the risks outweighed the dangers. As I look back on all those portraits that I looked at in the Victorian age, beauty shouldn't kill, but it still does. And as I think about a quote from Sir Francis Bacon, the best part of beauty is that which no picture can express.